most people have heard the statistic that 4 out of 5 companies die or dead, or 9 out of 10 within 5 years, and then 9 out of 10 of those are dead
Yes.
in the next 5 years. So
Yeah.
you look at the odds and you think 1 in 100 is going to be still an enterprise in a decade, and that's because you know, statistically, most people aren't going to do 5 companies. They're going to do one. They're going to die, and then it's done.
Yeah.
So I think you have to take a step back, and one of the questions is, are you committed? Like a lot of times, people will hire coaches, or they're thinking about hiring a coach or a mentor, and they go, I don't know if this is if it's good, if this person is worth it. And I go, you shouldn't do it. And they go, why? And I go, because you're not committed. That's the difference.
Mm.
This person could literally nod at you and let you process things and help you grow by just being there, holding the space. But when people
Mm.
aren't committed to their business or to the therapy or the coaching or whatever, they're not ready to do it. And people make the mistake of saying, I'm going to go try this business. I'm like, no, either you do it or you don't do it. Like Yoda said, there is no try.
Mm.
And that's
Yeah.
the big shift. If you are all in and you go for it, 80 businesses means I just don't quit until it's time to quit. And the question is, when do you quit? That's where mentors are really valuable, or having 50 or 60 companies. You're like, okay, instinctually I know it's time to kill this puppy. Or sometimes it's just I'm at the 1 inch line. I'm right at the end, right close to it, and it feels like I'm never going to get there, but it's persevering. So entrepreneurs that understand that are the ones that they don't know what quitting means. They're resilient. They're like honey badgers. That's my spirit animal, is the honey badger. It's resilient, relentless.
But it's also like redefining it, because um I mean, it's redefining what failure is. Because I'm sure when you look back after all of the companies that you set up are no longer in existence, you can frame it and go, "Oh, I was a miserable failure," or you can go, "No, I've learned massively. I've learned massively from this, and because of learning massively with this, I'm now happening to be very successful in a small number of companies." And that's the difference. But what I'm wondering is, I suspect that when you, and then maybe we'll go back to the beginning of when you start, but I'm suspecting that some of those failures, if you don't mind that world, must have been awfully hard to go through.
Well, and, it's interesting because in the beginning of building things and doing business, I think we naturally look at things like, oh, that either worked or I failed. I'm a winner or a loser. And now I don't look at
Yeah.
anything as failing. I just go, oh, that didn't work. And what did I learn? And I do it differently. Like I know that I'm not going to win in my head. I've got to go do something. And people are waiting for all the lights to be green before they go out, leave the driveway. And in business, you just have to go out there and say, okay, I have no idea. I'm going to figure out how to drive this car on the way. I'm going to figure out how to use this parachute after I jump out. Like that is business. And people say, well, I want to learn everything. I want to go to seminars. I want to go to college or whatever. And the reality is there's just so much more beyond that. And once you shift past that whole idea of failing into a space where you can't wait. Like I go out and I say, okay, what am I going to do that's going to be a flop or it's going to be unsuccessful? Like I can't wait for that thing because it's stretching and growing. And the things that are obvious, the speed at which I can get things done and move through is because so many things didn't work. And I go, oh, got it. Now I understand. And I understand it at a cellular level. Once you have that, that's called emotional intelligence. It's called wisdom, and you're able to move at the speed of light, and I call it the speed of trust, like Stephen Covey's book, the speed of trust.
Mm.
When you and it's trusting other people, it's also trusting yourself. That's one of the biggest
Mm.
keys. When you trust yourself because of your experience, you're able to move decisively, and you don't think about, well, I need to wait and see if I can get it all perfect. You move, because the reality is we're almost everything is non-fatal. It might cost you a bunch of money, and then that's just part of
Mm.
business. But we have this thinking that if I make a mistake, it's going to eat me, as if there's dinosaurs or tigers or something. I grew up in Alaska. There were actually bears. If you made a mistake, you could be eaten. Most people don't have that problem, no
Mm.
matter where you're at in the world.
But there are some mistakes. There are some mistakes that are fatal.
There, it's very rare that
I mean, do
most.
you analyze the? I mean, do you? I had a mentor at one stage, and he would say that, when you know, ask yourself, what are the consequences? What's the upside? What's the
Yep.
downside? And can I live with? Can I survive the downside? And it was quite simple. You know, if you can't survive the downside, then you don't freaking do it. The downside may be expensive, may be costly. If you can live with the downside, then do it. But if the downside is going to kill the rest of your businesses, or you're going to lose your home or something, it's probably not worth the risk.
It's true, and there are phases of what's acceptable for downside. In the beginning, I it's you have to take those risks, and at some point you start like one of my mentors 25 years ago said, "Hey, you guys, there are a bunch of us that were making good money. Like we were all millionaires at that point. We had our real estate. We thought we were top dog, very smart." And he said, "It's you guys are all making a mistake because you're putting all your chips on the table constantly, and you're never taking anything off." And we said, "Ah, whatever. We're making so much money with our money." And then
Mm.
we all ended up blowing up, and I ended up homeless. And so that was part of the process. Now, was it fun? No. Did it hurt? Yeah. It also didn't kill me. I don't want to do it again. So I have a different way of approaching life. It doesn't mean so one, I'm not I don't hesitate in taking risks, spending money, making mistakes, if you will. I also don't put everything all in on anything, even the things that I control, because there's the black swan
Mm.
event. There's the 9/11 where you weren't planning and the insurance company goes, "We had a $4 billion loss today that was not even part of our world." And those are the things that you've got to be mindful of. Do you want to start over? And if you're going to get any traction, you have to be willing to not diversify, to go all in, to throw everything on the table. And then there's a phase of when you stop doing that constantly, unless you're psychotic. And if you're psychotic, then that's just how you operate. I think that there's a
Mm.
natural progression towards the idea that I don't want to be homeless and start over. I have the T-shirt, I have the badge, I don't need to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you're saying something I was wondering about. I think I have become more risk averse as I've gotten older, simply because I have I have more to lose. And I look at my life and go, you got a pretty good life. You've got a lot of things sorted, and another business, another investment is not going to shift the dial for you. You might like it, you might enjoy it, but it's not going to shift the dial for you much, and the happiness dial or whether it's not going to change that. So I find I've become more risk averse. And two things. One, it sounds like you have an enormous risk tolerance. That's what I'm first thing I'm picking up. But secondly, is you sound like you're toning it down a little bit. You're kind of going, well, I'll take some risks, but not crazy risks.
It's true, and I'll take what most people would perceive as large risks. Because I got one of my deals, I have $30 million on the line. Well, that seems like a
Mm,
large amount. It is if it's everything you've got, but $20,000
mm,
at risk is more than $30 million to somebody if all they have is $10,000 in the bank and that's it, and they're
mm,
risking 20. So it's all relative. So I. But you get more comfortable with numbers that get bigger. The key, and this is a really interesting thing that I've learned over the years, is there is a phase like getting to a certain number, getting to a certain level of financial wealth. There's beyond that, it's actually more problems. And I think I heard Will Smith being interviewed by the guy that has the School of Hard Knocks, and they were asking about wealth. And Will's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and he said, so, he was asking him about the levels of wealth. And he said, after a certain number of millions of dollars, it's stressful past that. Like it's actually just more stress because it's more complicated. I know for a fact from experience that that's true. There is a stress if you're too low. And so my
mm,
suggestion for everybody is that you should be figuring out how to get to $10 million or 10 million euros. And the reason being, a million doesn't give you freedom. It doesn't give you certainty. 10 million does. 100 million is going to be more stressful. Yes, you can have a bigger jet, but it's in terms of lifestyle or freedom to do what you want. There is something about 10, and it's not just the money. It's what you have to become to go to 10 million. You can't accidentally bump into 10 million, like unless you're a founder of Google. But let's just pretend we're not dealing
mm.
with unicorns and lottery
Yeah.
events. At a million, you can bump into it. It's not even hard, and it doesn't mean you know anything about money. But to evolve into the person that knows how to create 10 million, here's the thing: you are invincible. You're impenetrable. If the money goes away, you have the confidence. You've got the muscle. You could go recreate it. I've had people that showed up and they had a couple million and they were scared to death because they accidentally got there. They're 55 years old and they thought, man, if I lose this, I can't spend 35 years recreating it, and I
Mm.
don't know how to do it other than maybe the stock market will work. So I have my focus with, and I built this little booklet people can download called Turnkey Retirement, and it's how to go to 10 million in 10 years or less, and it takes about 10 minutes to read. It's a 10-step process, and it was really boiling down all these companies and all this thinking. How do you do that? How do you actually become financially free from worrying about money? And it's that evolution.
So in this turnkey, in this talk of turnkey retirement, um, where's the starting point? When I say the starting point, I mean I photographed something on my phone a while ago that I came across, and it had, I don't know if it had the US in it, but it had all of Europe, and I had what the average income was in all different countries. In Ireland, if I remember, I'm going to guess that it was about 40,000, 35, 40,000 euro was the average income. Now, when you go to Spain, where I am at the moment, or if you go to Portugal, like a lot of other countries, that average income drops significantly down to where the average income in some cases is, you know, 15,000, 18,000 euro or something. So, um, so what that tells us is the majority of people are never seeing €1 million, never mind 10 million euro. And we spoke earlier about the fact that about 96% of companies never get beyond €1 million. So who are you speaking to? Are you trying to help them? Are you trying to help the masses, or are you trying to help an elite group of people who have moved into that bracket of which you might not call wealth, but to most people, if they ever saw €1 million, would consider themselves extraordinarily wealthy.
I totally agree. That's and when you think about the whole population, the whole globe, that is not
Mm,
who I'm speaking to. There's lots of people to
mm,
help, people make an extra few dollars or to boost their income.
mm,
The reality now with a global environment is anybody and anywhere, because it and you can get internet on a cell phone, like
mm.
it's really everywhere.
Yeah.
The reality is that there's wealth opportunities, and they're changing at the speed of light because of AI. So anybody anywhere can create wealth. I used to have people that worked for me in Africa, and it was interesting watching them go from literally just living in the dirt. I mean, just poor, poor, poor. And I've been to Africa numerous times, and that's one of those places where you can see the ability for people to connect. Now, you asked what the first step is. First step is making a decision. Here's what my vision is. And once you have a vision, there's this clarity and providence happens where resources show up and people start aligning, and things happen. Most people are choosing to stay where they are, and that has everything to do with their environment, the people that are around them. And I remember 25 years ago, I started listening to Tony Robbins constantly. That's all I was doing. I basically stopped talking to my family, kind of got rid of my friends, and people think, wow, that's really mean. That's like, you're a terrible person. And I said, my vision was more important than staying with people that wanted to stay where they were. I had a bigger vision, so I needed to be around people. It's the environment. The biggest hack is once you've got your vision, you change your environment. It's what's going in your ears, because then that's your reality. And so if somebody's making 18,000 or 40,000 or 80,000, whatever currency, there's a shift that you have to make. And I don't care if you have zero. I've been to zero 4 different times, and it was all about, here's my vision, and I go create it. And I'm a college dropout, so I'm not smarter than other people. I'm just more committed, more resilient. I have a bigger vision. There's a magic in thinking big, and it'll pull you. It's like a north star. Most people just they say, I'm going to do what's simple, what's easy. It's not wrong. It's just understand where you're at and why you're there and where you're going. You're probably going to where you're going to be, where you already are. That's for most people, it's a merry-go-round. It's the same thing over and over again, and it's always a choice.
Well, I imagine if you live in Ireland, or you live in US, or you live in Africa, you look around you with in the environment you're in, and whatever vision, and even if you're not calling that, because we all have a vision for the life, even if that vision is my life is going to be miserable and you haven't consciously created it, you still have a vision. It's an unconscious vision for your life. It sounds like what you're talking about is consciously creating, designing a vision for your life. So, but I get that vision is the reality we have around us. So the first step is, it seems like what you're suggesting, is becoming aware of that, and something has to shift your awareness where you go, okay, so my vision is limited by the environment I'm in. I became a devotee of Tony Robbins as well, probably around the same time. Um, and certainly I agree, stepping into that environment, that must be, or stepping into an environment where people are challenging how you're thinking, that must be very difficult for someone living in I mean, a place like a place like the US, there are lots of opportunities even in Europe, but when you're living in Africa, that's got to be extraordinarily difficult. So to change your vision And where do you find those the that where do you find that environment is going to be different for you?
So one of the things that you hit on is it's so true, and I'm very fortunate, and you're very fortunate. We're in Western cultures
Mm,
where there's, I mean, there's
mm,
a reason that so many people want to be in the United States because there's opportunities,
yeah.
and I've been all over the world, and a lot of places it's not the same. I mean, it's very different,
No.
and people aren't breaking into Peru, like they're not trying to invade, like that's not a thing. Where the,
Yeah.
the question, where do you find people? I mean, now that we have the internet, you can find anybody and
Mm,
everybody, and you can decide your influences. It's not about who's in
mm,
the house next to you or the hut or whatever.
yeah.
It's literally choosing who am I going to be influenced by, and the reason is when you have certain people's voices around you and they're talking a certain way, even if you're a fly on the wall and you're just listening, it becomes normalized.
Mm,
Like I always have a mastermind where I'm around people and I've outgrown them over and over again. And then I go, oh, my vision is way bigger and what I'm doing is bigger. And it's not making anybody wrong. It's just acknowledging, okay, I know where I'm going and I want to be around the people that have already surpassed that so that when I'm around them and what I'm hearing is the normalized place of where I'm going. If I'm constantly around people that are talking about how they're going to pay their electric bill, that is not going to inspire me to think the way I need to think if I'm and it's not about making it another $1 billion. It's really about what does that represent in the impact, because you don't make a billion, you don't create a billion unless you're having an impact on millions of people. And that's the whole point of wealth from my perspective. It's really stepping into the potential of why we're here. So these billions or whatever that number is, it's saying, what am I capable of? And if I'm doing half of what I'm capable of, I'm going to end up on my deathbed saying, damn, that, and having a lot of regret. That's impossible for me. After I experienced that with my dad weeks before he died, he literally said there were so many things that I wanted to do. I saw regret. It burned and seared into my soul. And I said, no way, no
mm,
how. I'm going to go all in, and everything I got, I'm going to leave it behind. And that's, I think that's one of the most important things for people. Whatever your calling is, go for it, freaking do it. And so at the end you say, that was amazing.
mm. I'm guessing a lot of people haven't. No, I'm not guessing. I'm certain a lot of people have no idea what their calling is. It's clear you're. No, I mean, it's clear creating wealth is an enormous part of your calling, and there's tremendous purpose in that. If there wasn't, you would have stopped a long time ago. I'm sure you could have. H- How did you how did you find your calling, and how do you think? Because we know right now a lot of people listening to this won't be at the point of success. They're listening to it because it's something they want to create, or they're stuck at a level and they don't know how to move with that. So, how do you go about finding a calling that's going to pull you and drive you to the degree that you have found?
I think we bump into things. We bump into, and what do you bump into? You see problems. You hear something is going on that bugs you, that makes you. It like for the focus on for what I'm doing and the unicorn, if you will, is solving the housing crisis, and it's all over the place in the United States, around the world.
Yeah.
There's a lack of housing. Things are getting more expensive. Why are things more expensive? A couple big reasons. One, there's not enough supply. That's a big problem.
Mm,
So there's a lot of problems. People are hungry. You can go solve that. People are they're in pain. Like there's unlimited amounts of problems, and something is going to touch you. You're going to say, you know what, that really matters to me. And so that it's not about necessarily finding it. It's just being aware and being open. And if you move around in the world, you're just going to bump into something. I mean, that's and it's this idea that it needs to be the right thing is bunkus. It doesn't need to be the right thing. It needs to
mm.
be something that you do.
Yeah.
And if you say, okay, that
Yes, something is a whole lot better than the right
right.
thing.
People say, which business should I do? And I said, I don't know. Do something. Anything. Go start
Mm,
a lemonade stand. Then when you realize this is not, I'm going to learn something here and I'm going to stop it, shut it down. And so it's people say, what do I invest in? I'm like, buy an ounce of silver. Do something. And they go, oh, I go, do something different than what you're doing today, what you've already been doing, because you have a life that you've already created. You're going to keep recreating the same thing. You've got to
mm,
shift yourself. You've got to evolve. And it doesn't really matter what you do. I mean, I can't say that enough times. It matters that you do something and then leverage from that, like 70 plus companies. It didn't matter that I didn't have the right company, if you will. They were all the right company in different ways of learning and experience
mm.
and growth. That's the whole point.